What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. Today we want to help you pick a kayak, the right kayak for you. So if you're going to go out on the water and you want to float, not swim your way to the fish, then you need a vessel, and we're going to help you choose that vessel. So if you're here and you are a beginner, you're getting into your first kayak, this would be a good video for you. If you are getting your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth kayak, this could also be very helpful for you.
That would be a good indicator that you may not have chosen the right kayak for yourself the first 5 or 6 times.
Or you're a collector, I don't know, whatever it is, right? So these are things that we have learned over the years. We have owned at this point, what, a couple dozen kayaks each.
Yep.
And we have also, utilized on this channel alone, well over 45 kayaks. So we've learned a lot of what works, what doesn't work. We've rigged so many of them now that we know like how the rigging's gonna go on that, how easy it can be, how difficult it can be. And we have also flipped a lot of kayaks, Paul mostly, and broken a lot of kayaks, me mostly. So we've learned a lot of lessons and we're gonna share it with you in this video. Let's get to it. Number one, you start with the canvas itself.
The basement of the house, if you will, the thing you can't replace.
The foundation.
Yep.
So once you have a kayak, you have the kayak. Now, whatever you have can be modded to the heck, like in back. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can go crazy with it. You can see like kind of my Old Town EPDL Pro here, for example. You can see Paul's Crescent there. We've modded the heck out of these and we've done it to many other kayaks that we've owned. However, you can't change the hull once you have it. So you've got to know a couple of things about this. Paul, what are those things?
A couple things to think about is what was the hull designed to do? And I think we have 2 great examples here. The Old Town PDL, this is the EPDL Pro. This really is meant to be a high weight capacity, pretty darn stable, wide, flat bottom kayak. This is not necessarily meant to be paddled, it's meant to be pedaled. It's meant to have motors on it, like that's what it was designed for. So it's gonna be a little bit heavier, it's got these deeper sidewalls, it's got a larger profile in general. So whenever you see something that's meant to have a motor on it, that you see it's super wide, like 36 plus inches wide, it's got mounting options for front and rear motors and all that kind of stuff, that's gonna be a larger, heavier kayak, and that's gonna dictate how you load and transport and all that sort of thing. Now this is the exact opposite. This is the Crescent Smallie. It's a relatively skinny kayak. It's got more of a V-hull shape. It doesn't have a ton of track on it. The DNA of this kayak is paddle, river, simple kayak. So it weighs a heck of a lot less. You're at like 65 pounds with the seat. So we're talking, it's shorter too. This is like 11 foot. So it's like you're dealing with the 2 kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. You have to know how you fish and how you want to fish before you make this decision. So if you want to stand up and fish, that automatically is going to put you in this class, this type of vessel. If you like to sit and fish, you're interested in mobility in the river, you think you're going to be doing a lot of paddling, you're going to want to go with more of a V-hull, smaller, more agile type of hull. Again, these are things you can't replace, so this is probably your biggest decision point and gets you started on what models may or may not make sense for you.
One assumption we'll make right off the bat is that you don't know what you don't know, and in order to know that, you need to go test out these kayaks. So if you're not sure if you want to stand or sit or what your stability level is, because it does vary person to person, it's based on your personal balance.
Yep.
That can come down to your height, your weight, and your internal balancing systems, right? Because you could be very bad at balancing. And if you're not very good at balancing, you're not gonna have sea legs. So our recommendation for any of this is that you get out there and you test it, find a local shop or a shop close-ish to you, make the trip if you have to. We drive 3 hours to test ours out at Water Dog Outfitters in beautiful Whitehall, Michigan. Shout out to those guys.
Free demos, you just call ahead, tell them you're coming, or don't, and just say, hey, I wanna try this kayak. Just show up.
That's what they do.
Right down the road. And look, you're gonna make an assumption. You're gonna read the description, say extremely stable kayak. You'd be like, that's a stand-up kayak. I'm gonna be great. I'm telling you, you don't know until you try it. You don't know until you get in it, try and cast, move around. It may be stable enough. It may be very stable. It may not be stable enough for you. And you're not gonna know until you try to adjust point. So definitely, that goes without saying with all these, try it before you buy it.
Make sure you test it out. Next up, weight capacity.
Let's talk weight capacity. Look, when you are thinking about buying a kayak, you're going to see all the stats on it in the nude with no stuff in it whatsoever. And so what you have to think about is like, especially like we'll go with this model right here. You're looking at the EPDL Pro, you're gonna see the usable weight capacity is what, 500?
Around 550.
550, right? So what you have to think about is like this thing right here weighs 50 pounds. Your battery is gonna be 40 pounds. If you're gonna put a trolling motor on it, your battery and your trolling motor are gonna be like 60 pounds right there. And then if you wanna put your screens on it, all of a sudden you're, with you involved, with you, your body weight, all that adds up up to that 550. So you can get up to like 400 of that just with the stuff. And all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I weigh 200 pounds. This is gonna be tough. So you don't wanna be operating at 99% of the capacity. You wanna be operating at like maybe 75% of the capacity. And again, the weight capacity of this smallie, it's pretty dang good, but it's not gonna match this. So when you're thinking about this and you're looking at the kayak and you're like, man, I really wanna have a motor, start adding up the weight of the battery, the weight of the motor, the weight of your assumed accessories, and then just plan that out, because you wanna be somewhere in the 70 to 80% range of the 550 or whatever it is weight capacity, not 449.9 getting in the kayak and be like, I am wet.
Next up, you're gonna determine how you want to be propelled. Now, you can have human propulsion in the form of a paddle. You can have a pedal. We have a pedal drive there. You can have a motorized pedal system, and then you could have motors themselves. So you could have a bow mount, you could have a stern mount. Paul has a stern mount that he uses on the Smallie. We've used the Newports, we've used the Garmins. There's all sorts of options out there. And then we've used the Minn Kotas and the motor guides off the front. So you need to determine, how do I go from point A to point B? Do I enjoy the purity of kayaking and I just want to paddle and like that's how I feel? Awesome. Make sure you get a paddle friendly kayak. They're going to be designed different. A good example is all Crescent kayaks are going to paddle really well. They are designed in that way to be stable in a seated low position while you're paddling, and they're also designed, as you look at the taper there, to be very fast. They taper off in the back. Versus something like this Old Town, you're gonna have more squared off. It's more designed to be stable and fishable and all of that, and it's not gonna be nearly as fast. You can even see the front section here, kind of boxy, right? There's quite the difference between this and this. So if you knew going into this that you're cool with using motors, which I am, that's what I want to use, or you want to use the pedal drive, then you would be comfortable getting something like this kayak, versus if you want to paddle, you need to be looking for something like that. And they're just different.
And then understand going in that you can't add a pedal drive on most kayaks. Vibe is one of the few where you can choose basically what type of propulsion you want, and you can swap them out after the fact. Most kayak manufacturers do not have a way for you to do that. So like in this case, if you bought the EPDL, you're paying for the drive.
This is the money right there.
But if you're like, oh man, I really don't want to use the pedals that often, I want to use the trolling motor, you take this off, you have to buy a plate to put it in there. You have to modify the kayak to do that. And then vice versa, if you bought a kayak like this, and you're like, man, I realize now that I want pedals. Well,
drill a hole in the middle.
You can't do it, my dude. There's no pedal drive for that. So you really got to be cognizant of that. The other thing too is if you're thinking about a stern mount motor, you need to be able to steer that motor. So this one has integrated foot steering that's already pre-wired. Not every kayak's going to have that. Look for that. Look for the amenities that make it stern mount motor friendly on the install. Make sure there's a 4-bolt pattern. The Old Town has it offset. Not everybody likes that. It's doable, but it's not ideal. You're gonna have to buy another plate to center mount it. You gotta, modify the kayak a bunch to handle the rudder, to deal with all that. So all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe if I'm stern mount, maybe this isn't the one for me. There's other kayaks that are more stern mount friendly. Think about all those things as you're going into the kayak. Do not buy a kayak that's pedal when you know you're gonna be, running a different type of propulsion. So know that going in, because again, when it comes to the basement, your foundation of your kayak, you're not gonna be able to modify it afterwards.
All right, so next up, if you want to add all these accessories, especially electronic accessories like these fish finders that I have here, you're gonna need a couple of things. So number one, you're gonna need track. So this Old Town has a ton of track, both front and back of the boat, super long amount. I mean, I think it's like 10 feet per side. It's kind of absurd. So you got enough room to mount all the accessories. Then you need to wire the thing. So a lot of kayaks nowadays, modern kayaks, are gonna have these through hull adapters. They're gonna be there so that you can run wires straight through that. There's one there, there's one over here. They're also gonna have replaceable plates. So there's a plate over here that you can remove, or you can add a through-hole wiring kit from like Yak Attack if you want to. And then you're gonna need space to store a lot of that wire too. So you're gonna need something like this internal area here. So I got enough space that I can add my batteries for all that wiring that I have. I can have my sonar unit. I can have my power system in there. You got room for all that stuff because you're running wiring throughout this boat.
You can also reach because there's center hull access. You can see right inside there's that pod. You can actually get in the middle of the kayak. So rigging one of these areas is all of a sudden much easier because you actually have access versus this one. There's no central access. There's a rear hatch and a front hatch. attach, and that is it. So another thing to keep in mind, access for wiring.
Last thing on the electrical, you can really put these wherever you want. Now it's nice when a kayak already comes with them, but you can get the Yak Attack through-hole wiring kits for that, and you can pop on Amazon. This is one of our favorites that we always use this for our motors, but a flush mount Anderson connector is fantastic, and you can put that wherever you want to. You just gotta cut a hole in your kayak. And that's something you gotta decide. Do I want to cut holes into the hull of the boat? If I start drilling holes into this and I mess up, it can be a pain to fix. Now it can be fixed. We actually have a plastic welding kit, for example, so you can just repair if you have to, but it's always scary to drill holes into a $6,000 kayak, for example. Another thing you're gonna wanna know is look at the back of these boats. They are very differently sized. You have a molded in tank well. The tank well is just this rear space. So most people who are going fishing on a kayak are going to use some form of a crate. You might have your basic milk crate, you might have a Black Pack Pro, and everywhere in between. When you're running a Black Pack Pro, for example, you've got different sizes. So we have the 16 by 16, and this over here is a 13 by 13. Your milk crates are generally gonna be 10 to 12 inches by 10 to 12 inches. So they're a little bit smaller. They're gonna fit in pretty much everything. But if you look at that tank well measurement, you're gonna wanna know that before you buy your kayak crate as well. And if you already own a kayak crate and you don't plan on buying more, you're gonna wanna make sure the kayak you get will fit the crate that you have. So you can see in the Old Town here, there's plenty of space. It's designed for the 16 by 16. And you can see over here in Paul's Crescent Smalley, it can only fit the 13 by 13. You can do the 13-16.
It's tight.
It's tight, and you lose a lot of space in the back. Let's say you want to add another battery for a rear mount motor or something, you won't have room for that.
Or a water bottle.
Or a sandwich, like there's no room for it. It's too bad. Okay, another thing that's gonna be very difficult to mod is your seat. You kind of get the seat you get. Seats come with these frames, or they have, like with the Crescent, this molded in specific spot. So it's designed for the seat from that company, right? And you're gonna wanna make sure, one, that you enjoy the seat, that it's comfortable, that it's in the right height, the right position. So the Crescent has like a high-low option that you can do. The low setting is gonna be more stable and easier to paddle and paddle faster. The high setting is nice for sitting up higher and casting, or if you wanna switch to a standing position. On the Old Town, this frame is set where it's at. Now you could put spacers or something in here if you want to, but as of right now, people are not making anything because this is brand new. But this seat is in a position designed high enough that you can see everything and stand up really easily. And it's designed to be pretty comfortable. It's actually really well padded. You can add cushions. Maybe you get an aggressively average angler cushion like this beautiful thing right here from Kayak Cushion. But you slap a cushion on there and you're gonna be a little more comfortable. Similar to the foundation that we were talking about, the hull of the kayak. This is another thing you can't really change other than adding cushions to it. So if you want to buy extra cushions, they're usually like, 40 to 60 bucks. And you got to get, one, maybe two, especially if you have any lumbar issues. So you're looking at over $100 to make it comfortable. Just pick the right seat, right? Like pick the kayak that has the right seat for you is something I would recommend for sure. And if you're not sure, something you find out when you test it. You get out of the water, sit on that thing, and you'll be like, I mean, I love it, but I'll sit on
Leave
it in there.
Days in the flick. Sit on that thing.
Sit on that thing. See if you like it. Oh God. Sit on that thing.
Last two things, cost. Look, there is a used market, and the used market is amazing with all the new kayaks hitting the market. All these people who have been fishing out of kayaks like, I want to get the new one. I want to get the new one. That one's sick. And what happens? They have a kayak. They have to be able to sell it. They're going to sit on the market for 6 months and be like, man, that was overpriced. They're going to lower the price, and you are going to get yourself a heck of a deal. There's a whole other video on buying one used. I'm not going to do that today, but just
we'll do it later.
We will do it later, but just know that the used market is there for you, and it's very legit, and you can get great value. Going new, you get the warranty. That is yours, and it's not always the case. It may have been voided by the previous owner, so you get that. You also get just a brand new kayak, so everything is brand new, and likely, if you're buying a new kayak, it's a newer model, so you're getting like the latest and greatest. So just something to think about. New versus used is a question you should ask before you even start doing any research whatsoever. The last thing, we talked about hull design and weight, and once you get all your stuff on it and you finally got it the way you want it, one thing that people forget about is these things get heavy freaking fast. You add a motor and a battery, all of a sudden you're 150-pound base kayak. They're like, I'm buff, I can handle that. You're like, I'm not as buff as I thought. I don't want to handle this because you've slipped on your Crocs and wrecked your back. Dude, it happens, bro. It happens a lot. lot. So something to think about is how are you going to transport this? Because you're going to have to buy a set of wheels. You might install hard bolt on a set of wheels that stay permanently on the kayak. You may just try and carry it. Like this one, I can carry it on its own and just pick it up with like 2 hands and just walk with the handle. There's also the trailer option that we're utilizing right now. So the reason I bring this up is it's added cost. It's another thing to think about, and you may find that you've trapped yourself by saying, man, I got this sick kayak, I got all the stuff on it. I didn't even think that I now need a trailer, and now I have to go find a trailer. So just think about that eyes wide open before you start making those decisions, or heaven forbid you buy everything and then you're like, ugh, got another $3,000 bill coming.
Yeah, one thing to note on the transportation of that, there are a lot of options for wheels that you can add to your kayaks. There are scupper mounted wheels we don't ever recommend because you can very easily, those are the scuppers we're talking about there, you can very easily crack those scuppers, void your warranty, sink your boat.
You're also going to lose stuff when you tip the kayak up sideways, so don't recommend those. I like the wheels that go underneath the kayak that have like 2 bars, so think the bar cart from Yak Attack, that's the one I would recommend the most.
Or the Bunkster, which is a little bit cheaper, not as giant of the bars, but
absolutely.
So those, you can kind of just like tip your kayak up, so Paul would like, well, it's strapped down, but he would
lift
like,
the front up, throw the wheels underneath, boom, done. And when you're over here, you can prop the kayak up on your tailgate, slide the wheels underneath, and then off you go.
So those are the least expensive options. Another option that ends up adding a lot of bulk, more weight to your kayak, something to keep in mind, but is the easiest form of transportation for a lot of these is going to be track mounted or bolted on wheels. Now, challenge with that is I would be losing all this track section here. Actually, it would have to be like up here. So you would have to like bolt through your hull if you use like a Boondocks landing gear for this, or if you use like the native side kicks. The other problem with those wheels often is that you can't roll around your kayak when it's fully rigged out. So I can't like take this off my truck, load it up like I'm tournament ready to go in the water, and then wheel it down to the water. That's too much weight for those wheels. So it's something you need to know ahead of time. So if you see a native with the native sidekick and you're like, oh, that's really cool, just keep in mind, you're not gonna set your kayak up first and then wheel down. You're gonna wheel it down empty and then you're gonna load it up at the water. That's how those wheels work. Also, they don't work with everything. So for example, the new Canoe Unlimited has to have an adapter plate, which is about $100 in order to run the Boondocks landing gear. So now we're $400 into wheels to get down to the water. That's why a lot of people love those kayak carts because they're around $100. You can get them cheap on Amazon. Yeah, and they work for every kayak. So just know the kind of wheels or transportation you're gonna wanna use because you're not gonna just grab this thing and like either A, drag it, rip holes in it, piss everybody else off on the internet. Ruin your transducer, or you're not gonna just carry it with one hand unless you ended up with a super light model. Paul used to have a sit inside the Vapor from Old Town and he could carry that down to the water no problem. This is never getting carried by me.
No. And look, Malone's always here for you. If you need a trailer, you can get one shipped to your house, a couple grand. They have a bunch of different options. Trailers are amazing, but a trailer's not for everybody. That's why a lot of people get a kayak.
So there you guys go. Those are a lot of things that go through our minds when we're considering the next kayak to use. And again, top of the video, what did we say? Make sure you test it out. So if you can find a facility near you, all we did was call. Like I just picked up the phone and I dialed like 10 places, 3 of which answered, 2 of which said they would do tests, 1 of which had enough models that we wanted to test. We ended up going to Water Dog Outfitters. So.
And now they have everything. So they literally have every kayak. I'm not telling you to go there, but if you don't go there, you made a mistake.
But go there. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. If it was, be sure to subscribe, smash that like, ring that notification bell, and let us know what we didn't cover in this video that you have questions about. So any questions related to just getting out on the water, even if it's not kayak related, if you got bank fishing questions, if you got fishing combos, bait caster spinning setups, whatever you got, let us know in the comments below. That helps us determine what videos to make for y'all, and we are happy to do that. We want to be a resource here at Aggressively Average Anglers. So from Paul and myself, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
I said goodbye.
I said good day.